What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another riveting episode of Down the Middle. It is your host, Max Finn and Los Silva. Today, we haven't even talked about the topics we're going to talk about, but there's so much going on that it's easy to pick out a topic to get started. Where do you want to start, Max?
I got some stuff written down. I got
Well, first let's tell everybody, because I was at your mastermind last week, and if we're going to make content, might as well try to sell some stuff. I was at your mastermind, Founders Mastermind. Obviously, we have our own mastermind. You know what's really cool? Like, they're very different.
Yeah.
And so I actually think we can push both without any issues, because your mastermind is a lot of like really seasoned guys that are not necessarily even looking for like a new trick or tactic or skill. Like, they're just there to actually build relationship. It's more of a mastermind. Ours is more of a consulting company with 3 events. You know what I mean? Like, our goal is to help people scale their business and revenue, and like we do a lot of things to help them do that. Your mastermind is a lot of like higher end guys looking for relationship connections, and even trying to find a way to be a little bit more vulnerable. Like Jeremy, your partner, started, just for everybody that doesn't know, Jeremy Adams is Max's partner. And he started the conversation at the beginning of the event with something that like you're vulnerable about. And everyone was talking about like random business shit. And I said, hey, one of the big things for me is I have a hard time with all of my businesses growing, and I'm stoked for that. That gives me energy. Every time my businesses grow, I feel like I'm a shitty dad. And every time I'm being a great dad, I feel like I'm letting go, like my businesses aren't 100%. And I have a pretty good, like, I don't want to say like I'm unbalanced on it. I'm just unsatisfied because I'm a analyst, like kind of like a perfectionist. Like, I'm very statistically driven. And so I like try to manage time almost like by whatever, right? I don't think there's balance. I think you go 100 here, 100 there, blah, blah, blah. And that opened the door for a lot of other entrepreneurs to start talking about the same thing. And I thought that was really cool, because like it was a safe space, and you guys provided a really safe space for that. Delivered great content. I became pretty good friends with your other partner inside of that business, Sean Brown. Sean, myself, and Tim, who's his partner, had another great deal. We're looking at doing some deals and stuff. So if you're looking to do big deals, if you're not kind of just getting started, this isn't for you. Neither one of us on a mastermind level is going to be for you if you're just getting started. But if you're interested, just DM me. Or Max. If you DM me, I'll send you over to Max. If you think Founders is a better fit, if you think Powerhouse is a fit and you want to know more, you can talk to us about that. Light pitch, but also like really good times. I had a great time. Balboa Island is where we went. Beautiful place. I skipped a little bit of the mastermind the second day after hanging out with you for like pretty much the whole first day. And I went to see dolphins, and we chased dolphins for like an hour.
That's cool.
It was sick, dude.
Yeah.
I got a bunch of videos on that. We need to do that as like a family trip, because that place is gorgeous, and you can see Sean and Tim.
Yeah, I think definitely making a family trip out there makes a lot of sense.
So I'm getting a place, I did this. I'm getting a place in June for a month. It's a 3-bedroom. So you guys have 1 room. You'll just put Quinn in that room.
Yeah.
We have Sienna and Mila in 1 room, and then we'll have another room. So if you guys want to come for like a week, like we have a place now.
Yeah, that'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Let's definitely plan that.
Yeah,
I mean, Founder, it's evolved into more of a program for leaders,
right,
and business owners looking to level up both personally and professionally, and build kind of deep personal relationships and do really big deals. And
that's what's next to a lot of people.
Yeah, there's not enough stuff out there for that, right? So it's and everyone focuses so much on the tactical, and I spent so much time teaching tactical, and it's
You're
what
exhausted.
I realized is like it gets you to a certain place, but then once you get to a certain place, you start to realize like, okay, I got here, but to get to the next place,
It's not a tactic.
it requires such different types of skills: leadership skills, management
Thinking
skills,
skills.
interpersonal skills,
Yeah.
emotional intelligence, right?
Right.
And so I think it's for us, it's like being abundant. Like instead of us trying to do everything, it's like, why don't we just stay in our lane, do this, and partner with you guys and partner with Shaq, and like we're all teaching something different. We all have a different vibe and a different value proposition, and people that are serious about growing can benefit from all 3 of them. And so I think, obviously we're going to talk about some interesting things that we can do together to make that happen, that integration happen more. But it's exciting.
And there is some, just to tease it, Max and I are coming out with a concept that we're actually talking about when the podcast is done here today on an NFT opportunity that is not going to be a CryptoPunk or just some digital JPEG. It's going to be a experiential based situation, which is pretty cool. That's all we'll say for now, and then we'll just kind of get started with the podcast. So what do you got?
So I have popped up my my Evernote over here. So I wrote a few things down over the last few days. So we got to do our round of politics. So we got to talk about Biden's poll numbers and what's going on there. We got to talk about the DAO Constitution, so the kind of the decentralized organization, which has become really popular, where people are kind of starting.
I don't know
companies.
about that.
So it's basically like a Web 3.0 version of a company. They're decentralized. There's no centralized ownership structure. So it's what's
the goal?
This group came together to basically raise funds to buy the Constitution at auction. We can talk about that. Talk about 100,000 opioid overdoses in the last year. First time it's passed
100%. I think it was 100%. You might know the actual statistic, but no, that's not true. 25%, I think it was, of people are dying more from opioids, mainly downers and fentanyl.
Yeah, fentanyl is really bad. It's up. I think the numbers are up about 30% year over year. It's the first time the number's been over 100,000.
That's what it was.
Really, really bad. And then we got UMG, so Universal Music Group, launching a Bored Ape Yacht Club band, which is really
with
interesting.
Timbaland.
Producing it. And I think that's fascinating because Bored Apes, the owners actually get to own the IP. And like with the Top Shots, you can't take your Top Shot and go license it to somebody and make money off it.
Dude, I can't even get money back from my Top Shots right now.
Yeah,
I'm on month 5. I invested a little bit in Top Shot. When I wanted to get my money back, they're like, yeah, no, we will. Just not yet. And now it's coming back, so I'm like, I don't know. But like, yeah, I mean, Bored Ape Yacht Club and CryptoPunks. What I like about them and how you think about NFTs, right, is like, NFTs are JPEGs, and that's how people think of them. But the good ones, and that's why I would only invest in like 2, which is CryptoPunks and Bored Ape Yacht Club, not Mutant Ape Yacht Club, which is number 3 on OpenSea. That's a different company. They're just leveraging the words and kind of making it sound the same, which there's got to be legalities on copywriting and things like that now in the future with this stuff as well, because like you can trick people. But there was an NFT conference in New York, and if you had a Bored Ape Yacht Club, like you could show that you actually owned it, you got into a private place with Tiesto and Cascade. Yeah. Like as a private party, and like they're gonna do that for Coachella. They're gonna do that for a bunch of other things. Like that's what I like about that is like Jimmy Fallon owns it, Post Malone owns it.
He
so
bought
like
2 for like $900,000.
You're buying into a.
It's a club.
It's
club.
like buying a mastermind of another level, right? It's like that deep relationship. And if you understand buying time and buying influence in relationships, I'm very interested in buying a Bored Ape Yacht Club soon, or maybe even I was actually going to bring it up to you and be like, dude, we should consider splitting a Bored Ape because like, fuck, like what could, and I don't know, it might be financially I think will be okay, but relationship wise, I think like we can't hit these places unless we're in that it's a club now. It's a club with a JPEG.
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting concept, and this is we've talked about it for a while. Over different episodes, we talked about NFTs and stuff. Like the concept of people just saying we're just buying a picture, right? And that's what you're buying. I don't understand how a picture is worth $190,000, $250,000, $300,000. It's the picture's irrelevant.
It is.
It's totally irrelevant. It looks cool. It's something you can showcase and proof of ownership. That's technically not proof of ownership. That's like visually.
It's a flex. It's a flex.
Yeah, I put it in my Twitter icon.
But it's more than that.
It's a ticket. It's a unique ticket that gets you access to certain things that you can't get access to other ways. Plus, it's a ticket that appreciates in value over time. Right. Especially if you look. I mean, if you look at like Bored Ape, what they're doing. And if you believe in this thesis, right? So if you believe in the thesis that Web 3.0 is going to continue to grow, the metaverse, NFTs, crypto in the next 10, 20, 30 years are going to be as mainstream as the internet is and iPhones, then it seems like this is a ground floor level investment. It seems very expensive. But if you think about it, like there's a lot of celebrities. There's a lot of athletes. There's a lot of politicians, people, right, that more and more of them are going to want to buy that, be part of that club, and they're going to be willing to pay a lot more money. And so, and then it gets more valuable, right? So it's all of a sudden, every time you hear Post Malone's now a member of it, Jimmy Fallon's a member of it. Right. If you get, Eminem buys one, Drake buys one, Jay-Z buys one, Kanye buys one, like Kardashian buys one, like that. Or if it goes even further and it's like Mark Cuban gets one, right? Elon Musk gets one. And now you're part of this really unique club where there are experiences, and beyond experiences, they're also starting these like mini projects inside it with members, right? So it could be, hey, you're a, entrepreneur inside there. You get access to, special funding deals. Right. You get access to, certain distribution opportunities. Like there's all kinds of things because you're a member and you're part of this kind of secret inner circle. But I mean, that's what I think. The other cool thing is that a lot of this, it's very intangible and it's very hard to, other than selling it, to make any type of money, right? It's like I buy it and it appreciates and I flip it and I sell it, and that's the transaction there. But what's cool with what Bored Ape's doing is when I own my Bored Ape Yacht Club number 1921, whatever it is, that character I own the rights to. So I can go to Netflix and say, hey, let's do a Netflix cartoon with me and these 3 other people. Mm-hmm. You can go to what UMG's doing, and they're going to start a guerrilla-style band with 4 Bored Apes inside Decentraland, inside these kind of metaverse worlds. They're going to do concerts. They're going to have albums.
They're going to have music and rights to that music.
Exactly. And so the people that own those Bored Apes not only are realizing the appreciation of the NFT, but they're also going to make money from licensing deals.
Well, that'll be a label inside of a fake world, which is crazy. Think about a label inside a fake world creating music for mostly a fake world. That's what? Yeah. But also it's the real world.
And you're hearing more.
So different.
You're hearing more and more stories. There was an article, I think it was New York Times, Wall Street Journal, one of those the other day, and it was about a mom talking about her son, her 9-year-old. When they said, "Let's plan your birthday party. What do you want to do?" I want to have a birthday party in Roblox. And so they invited all their friends, and they all met up on the computer in this world, and they had a concert and a show and everything, and everyone loved it, and everyone was super excited about it. And so I think you're going to have a generation growing up where that's where they want to spend their time, and that's where they want to celebrate and have fun. And everything in there is an NFT. Every T-shirt, every sunglass you wear, your house, your land you're on, right? The musicians performing, the athletes doing sport. I mean, like it's basically just duplicating the entire economy in the digital world.
It's funny you say that because I'm invested in a fund with my friend Jeff Seckinger, Orca Capital. I have about a third of my portfolio in that business. I'm adding more into it because it's growing, and I don't know what I'm doing, so I'm just not trying to pretend. And I went to him and I was like, "Hey, dude, have you ever thought about like creating an aggregator or even a fund that buys virtual real estate on Sandbox?" And he was like, "What?" We were talked about that, and I texted him, and I was like, "Have you ever thought?" He's like, "It's too early for that," and I was like, "That's why it should happen now." Like that's why he's like, "It's way too early." I'm like, "Yeah, but once it's later, that fund is the same as like a serious fund in the real world. Why wouldn't we do it now? Aggregate smaller levels of people, buy it at a clip, and then be able to be like 5 years. It's a loss of money because you're not selling anything. So like, yeah, I guess you're getting appreciation or whatever. Like you're getting some gains, but I think 5 years from now, if we built this fund today, 5 years from now, we're like, yeah, we spent $400,000 even on like a few properties. We have $16 million worth of properties. I think it would be that big of a discrepancy.
Oh, it'd probably be way more. I mean, it'd probably be way more because again, you need to factor in like how
you're still buying land. It's just in a fake universe.
To us, this all seems like you're late to the game. Because in our world, it's 24/7. It's all everyone's talking about. We're on newsletters. We're following Instagram accounts, Twitter accounts. But like we represent a small fraction of people, right? The average person, person living in Idaho right now, just working 9 to 5, has no freaking clue. Maybe they've heard of Bitcoin before, but they have no idea what's happening. But their kids and their kids are gonna grow up in it. So I think what you're going to end up with is similar to the .com boom, right? Where there are going to be billionaires and trillionaires made today by people making decisions today in a decade from now.
And I think
and a lot's going to be lost. So, right? It's like for every Amazon, there was also a pets.com. Right. So there's going to be plenty. I don't think all of these, metaverse companies are going to be around in 10 years. But one of them will be, and one of them will be fucking massive. And so if you invest in all of them, put a little bit of money in all of them, and understand like I could lose all of this, but it's the way I look at it, it's like, high risk, high reward, but it's also a pretty, in my opinion, it's like almost a certainty that it's going to happen. It's a matter of who the player is going to be, who's going to be Amazon of this world, who's going to be Apple of this world.
And I'm invested in a few, and I'm going to give you guys some. This is definitely not financial advice. I'm just going to give you some. For sure, do your own research. I'm not even going to bring up their market caps, which are all significantly small. Some are not even in the billion yet. So the opportunity, if you're a holder, if you're a trader, I don't know how to do that. I buy stuff and I let it go. So that's kind of like worked out better for me. And statistically speaking, if you actually play that longer game, it works out better for you no matter how much you were trading day in and day out, like longevity.
Day traders lose money.
Longevity beats day trading. At least in our opinions, that is something we're not down the middle on. We're 100% believe that. So I'm invested in Sandbox, Ultra, Vulcan Forge, Illuvium, Seedify, Wonder Hero, and Cypher. Things that I'm looking to invest in are Cryo Wars, Monkey Ball, Big Time, and Superfarm. And that's, some of those are game companies. So if you think about it, I think about it as a EA Sports, and also like the guys that made, I'm losing the names right now, but like some of the big companies that created Fortnite and all that, like Epic Games, all those things, like these companies are the future of that. And so if you're thinking about, hey, what does things look like in the future? I believe that if we're looking at virtual, we're looking at creating a space for like anything, right? And what would we want to play? Some sort of a game. So gaming companies, I think, are going to be one of the biggest things on the planet.
Yeah, I agree. And then you're going to see, I mean, you got Nike, Disney, all these companies
making
in
NFTs,
the last week coming out
private
with news
shoes, all
that Disney's doing a metaverse play, Nike's patented different NFTs. I mean, what you're going to have eventually is the ability to, and we talked about this with even like you buy high-end luxury stuff, and part of what you get when you buy it is a, an NFT, verification of it. It's a digital version of it. So you buy this car, whatever it is, and you can put it into whatever world you want. So it shows that you also own an Aston Martin or a Lamborghini or a Ferrari or whatever it might be, or Birkin bag. And like, that's only a matter of time before that happens. But it's,
and as the owner, every single time that something gets traded, you get a percentage of that trade. Yeah. Which is crazy. Like you have forever built perpetuity. Talk about real passive income. That is the epitome of that.
That's the beauty. I think that's what's so cool for artists, especially with NFTs, because they're the earliest form is, artists. It's like you get this royalty forever, this 7.5% or whatever, whatever the amount is in perpetuity. And what's cool, I mean, a lot of the companies that are doing it are taking, either 100% of it or a big chunk of it and paying it back in dividends to get some cash flow from your...
Or creating experiences.
So, well,
that's who's going to win. The guy, it's the same as business, right? The guy that's not ripping every dollar out just to take. Yeah. The guy that's like, no, that's dope. But because there's plenty of, this is why I only would invest in 2 different NFTs. Sure, $1 million could work. I'm sure some people are like, I've been making money on NFTs. I get it. But what I'm saying is like the CryptoPunks and Bored Ape Yacht Club, they're thinking into 2030. And you're thinking about making money next week through flipping it, they're going to build so much stuff that, like, if you invest, this is the by far cheapest. I think these things are going to be $2 million, $3 million, $4 million because the level of exclusivity is going to be so significant, and they're going to spend, I think it's a 10% margin gain for them. Like, I think it's a dividend return game. That's all they're playing. They're playing that real recurring, but they're going to go spend everything else in making sure that they get that dividend. And so all the money is going to go to like events and fun times and things and crazy opportunities and yachts with actual Post Malone and private concerts with like Madonna, whoever, right? Like that's the play. And I think that's where people should start looking at, like, that is life-changing stuff. Like, you're buying into there. I think the metaverse is creating a future of like it doesn't matter if you're Jimmy Fallon or if you're Max Finn. Like, we are all the same inside of this ecosystem if you're able to be a part of like certain communities.
Yeah, 100%. So it's exciting stuff. I think it'll be interesting to see how these kind of first versions of bands and all that stuff goes, licensing deals, content plays, how it works out legally, structurally, like financially, and just like how it actually is executed. Right,
Yeah.
that'll be interesting to see. So I know we spent a good amount of time on that because it's exciting stuff. But so we got a more morbid topic. We talk about the overdose issue, and we can also talk about Biden's poll numbers, which is always fun to talk about.
Let's start with the morbid, and then we'll go make fun of Joe Biden. So 30% increase in deaths through downers and I guess uppers, but most uppers, people have to realize that they're spiked with fentanyl for whatever, right? Every time you buy something, it's chopped up or whatever. And so fentanyl is I don't know what even fentanyl is, but clearly it's a fucked up drug. 4 people just died in Austin.
I mean, it's a synthetic opioid, and it's used, typically it's a patch that's like put on.
Is it?
It's a patch that's put on for cancer,
is it like
terminal cancer patients.
Oh, it's like sellable.
So it's being made in labs now and like on the street, but it's, fentanyl patches have been around for a long time. And it's been something that they give if you're, dying of late stage cancer and you're just in horrific pain.
What does it do? It just makes you numb or something?
I mean, it's an opioid. So it just, presses those receptors. Yeah. So it's, the way opioids work is you have opioid receptors in, on your cells, right?
Yeah.
In your brain, and your body naturally makes them, but it's like a very light touch. And when you take Oxycontin or Percocet or whatever, they come in and artificially press those buttons. They bind to them and press it down and force your brain to release that, but in a much larger amount.
So
fentanyl is like 1,000 times that.
So when people are spiking an upper with a massive downer,
they're spiking
your heart's just going to
that. But it's also what's even more dangerous is putting it into they're putting it into heroin, they're putting it into everything, because what's terrifying about it is because it's so fucking strong, you only need about like a grain of rice of it for it to be fatal.
Yeah.
So if you think you're, I snort heroin, right? And this is the normal amount of heroin I take. I do it every day. And you go to do that, but it's got,
fentanyl
a little bit of fentanyl that's cut with,
more than
you're going to
normal.
die.
Yeah.
Because you're going to overdose instantly.
Yeah.
And it's become a big problem because a lot of stuff's being cut with it. And I think with the pandemic and with
Is
lockdowns,
that because people aren't getting real drugs because of shipping?
No, I mean it's
just a good way to spike it and make more profit.
Yeah, it started as a financial thing.
Yeah,
it's drug dealers cut things. They
Yeah.
buy something in large amounts and then they make it into more amounts.
I've also heard it's hard to get drugs into the United States right now so that's why people are cutting a bunch of bullshit, whether it's weed or whatever. Obviously, you're not going to like a dispensary or any a ketamine clinic. Like they're just throwing bullshit out.
Potentially, I mean, it's fentanyl has been a big problem for a while.
Yeah, probably a huge one in Florida because we're super down with the.
Florida, it's gotten a lot better, but Florida used to be the state that people would come to.
That's probably how we're known for such bullshit.
This is where all the pain clinics were. So people used to drive down here, and you go to a little strip center doctor that would charge you a few $100, write you a script, and would do that all day. They'd have a line of 500 people outside, and those doctors were making tens of thousands of dollars, $100,000 sometimes a day, for years until it got cracked. And a lot of them too would also do their own pharmacies. They had their own pharmacy in the back, so they would fill the drugs and also charge cash for that, not take insurance. But I mean, it's a big problem, and I
don't think it's going to change.
Unfortunately, unless this is, I think the problem is a lot of people don't think about externalities, and they don't think about the fact that certain decisions have both short-term and long-term consequences. Right. And so when you look at how we've handled COVID, I think there was a point in time where we had to pause things because we didn't know. Right. There was a period of time where we didn't know how transmissible it was, how deadly was it? Was it going to kill 5%, 10% of people? Right. We didn't know. And so if there's a fear that this could kill 10% of people, like, okay, let's lock shit down for a little bit while we figure it out. But now we're 2 years in, we have so many treatments. We have a vaccine. We have boosters. We have this new therapeutic pill that's apparently basically if you take it within the first few days, your chance of dying is almost not, in the tests they've done, nobody has died. So we have this amazing pill now that you can take. We have monoclonal antibodies.
That's Pfizer, right?
Yes. So we have all of these amazing treatments and options, but we're still, there's going to be a spike this winter. It's still just fear porn everywhere. And the problem is that this is having a repercussion for people of like, that's amplified. So it's forcing a lot of people to stay home, to not go out of their house, especially in big cities, because those big cities are, have been more aggressive at locking down and stuff. So you have people that are just terrified. They're not leaving their house. They're not going out as much. They're not socializing. They're not seeing friends. They're not seeing family. If you're already somebody that was prone to drug addiction or on the path to drug addiction or had mental health issues, and
all you can do is do drugs in your house,
and you got cut off from your friends and family and support system for 2 years, you got cut off from basic medical services because the hospitals were almost all for COVID. If that happened to you for even a few months, you would have no chance. But for 2 years, plus all you're seeing on social media, all you're seeing on the news is fear, fear, fear. You're going to die. The world is imploding. Everyone's evil. It's civil war. Like it's just constant bombardment of the world is ending.
Which I would tell you to stop watching the news. Yeah. It is that easy. When COVID first came in March, we had every TV here. You guys obviously haven't seen The Office. We have like 7 TVs, 6 TVs. Every TV had CNN. And every TV was, because all the guys were like, no, let's put it on. And then we had a horrible week, and I was like, man, I even went to Laura, and I was like, I don't know what's going to happen. I think every business is going to go out of business. I don't know. And then I was like, I'm doing this to myself. I stopped, and we thrived moving forward, like in every brand, right? But had I kept going and fell into that, which is easy, you are being hypnotized. I don't care if you believe it or not. Like, is the media's job to post negativity, not positivity, right? And so I felt hypnotized for 1 week, and we had the worst week in a few years. I stopped, and we haven't had a bad week since, right? Yep. I think there's a lot to say about like how you are and what you're choosing to consume.
Yeah, I think the key there though is that you had, just like I did, a support system, right? So you have your family and you have your team and your company and stuff. A lot of people over the last 2 years aren't married. They don't have kids. They aren't near their parents. And so if you're just like an individual who's already kind of sad and life already kind of sucks, because remember, like people were dealing with depression and mental health already before COVID, right? They didn't just like start with COVID, and you add all of this onto it. It is devastating, right? And like I can say, I haven't really talked about this publicly much, but like, I from 18 to 20, almost 21, I had an opiate addiction. I was addicted to, initially started with Percocet and then eventually OxyContin and stuff. And so like I have firsthand experience of this, and I know how fucking brutal it is. Yeah. And I know how like,
was it an injury that got you there, or just like
it was a typical story, and this is, I think we could spend a whole episode talking about.
Maybe we'll do it later
because I think it's so. I think what what Purdue and the Sackler family did, and the FDA did, and the government did, like I think is criminal. I think a lot of people should be in jail. But anyway, yeah, I mean, it was. I threw my back out. Mm-hmm. I would just turn 18. Went to a doctor. When you're 18, you don't need to have your parent there anymore, and the doctor said, "Here's Percocet." I'd never done drugs before. I didn't know what an opiate was. Right. I didn't know what getting high. Like I didn't understand it. Right?
You trusted. Hey, it's medicine.
It's a doctor.
Yeah, it's medicine.
And I've spent my entire life when I get sick or injured, I go to the doctor and they help you. Yeah. Right. And didn't give me any warnings. Didn't say, hey, this potentially could make you there's a thing called addiction and physical addiction. Right. And if you start to feel these things, let us know. Like, and it just spiraled. It eventually started like this. I feel fucking great. I take these things. All of a sudden, I feel I'm a lot happier. My life's a lot better, right? And you're just like, why doesn't everyone have these? Because you don't. There's no like in my head. I was 18-year-old kid. I never done drugs before. Like, I didn't think about the ramifications of like, if you keep doing this every day, your brain is rewiring, and eventually, when you stop taking it, your brain no longer naturally produces that chemical. Yeah. And you're going to be in the worst agony anybody could fathom. Going through opiate withdrawal, it's the worst. It's the worst thing anybody could ever experience. But yeah. So anyway, I mean, it's like this for me is like super personal, and you know, I got through it because I had family and I had friends and they had resources to send me to detox and stuff, which is very fucking expensive. To do it right, because I tried multiple other times and failed.
Yeah.
But you look at, you know, most people don't have those resources, and most people don't, especially the last 2 years, like you're cut off from all social interaction.
Civilization.
And then you factor in all this stuff with, you know, work clothes, and if you lose your job, or you choose to quit your job because everyone's quitting their job, and you lose purpose, right? If you have no job right now, and you're already somewhat sad and depressed, and you might have some mental health issues, and you were already maybe experimenting with drugs or whatever, like you have no chance. Right. It sounds sad. I'm not trying to make it seem like, if you're listening to this, like I think you have a chance to get out of it, and there's ways to do it. I'm happy to talk about it, but I mean, just like for that person to get to that situation, it was set up to fail. Like you were going to end up there if that was how you're entering the situation, right? And you lose work and you lose all that. So, and you're just terrified and you think the world's shitty and sucks and right. So it's, but yeah, I mean, that's my rant. I definitely want to spend, cause there's a Hulu show that came out, called Dope Sick with Michael Keaton. And, it's really
show
amazing.
Or like documentary vibe?
It's a real show, but it's about the story of the opiate crisis.
Okay.
And like what Purdue Pharma did, and how they got the FDA to basically say that their drug was less addictive than other opiates. They got all this shit that was totally legal and should never have happened, and is a single reason why it became the epidemic, because the bottle they got this approval to say that it was less addictive than other opiates, and that I think it was less than 1% of people get addicted. They had all these bullshit studies and stuff. They just lied.
Yeah.
And they got away with it and made billions and billions of dollars, and the family got fined. You know, they went to court, and I think they paid like $4.5 billion, and they got to leave the company, which is nothing. They're worth tens of billions of dollars. They'll make that back in a decade.
A quarter.
So yeah, it's wild and it's sad, and I think if we continue on this path where we don't recognize that isolating people, continue to scare people that they're going to get sick and die, and not letting people just go back to their lives again, this is going to continue to happen, and it's going to get worse.
Well, dude, as and then we can move subjects, but my 6-year-old didn't go to school for a year, right? And then she went to school. Most outgoing girl, way more outgoing than my 11-year-old even. And she had a really hard time readjusting to school. She was like, I don't want to go to school. I'm not used to it. I don't want to go see people. Like, she didn't want to. Yep. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, why? Like, you're outgoing. And she's like, no, I don't know anybody. Like, blah, blah, blah. And so that's a 6-year-old. Imagine, like, normal people having to readjust to society. Like, it does play some sort of a mind game on you. Like, we never were Floridians, so, like, we kind of, like, never had COVID in regards. We did, of course. We had the highest levels. Now we have the lowest levels because our governor kind of like, hey, do your thing, guys. Let's just keep living. But I think we have an advantage. Whatever you think about the governor or all these things, I just think we have an advantage on, like, we kept being social. We were allowed to still be socializing, and that helps your mental state. Worst case scenario, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. And it's a big topic, and we can maybe next week we'll dive deeper into that, like Dope Sick show and Purdue Pharma and stuff, because it's a big story, and it's not like it's
we'll
not
make it
mainstream.
The Thanksgiving episode.
Yeah, just
happy Thanksgiving. Yeah. Here's how you don't need
how
to
the
die.
Sackler family is the worst family in history, and we're thankful that they got fined. I hope they go to jail forever.
All right, so we got one more topic. It's our POTUS.
Yeah, it's dude, I posted a graph the other day showing his approval ratings, Harris's approval ratings, and Buttigieg's approval ratings, and they're all in the low 30s. Kamala is like 28.
20, yeah.
It's really bad. So, like, let me see if I can pull up this stat. So the Politico poll shows just 44% of voters approve of his job performance, and 46% say he's mentally fit. So less than half of the country that got polled says he's mentally fit. Let's see.
I mean, last time we talked about that he shit his pants.
Yeah.
So,
well, what's bigger about this? So it's both. It's, you know, a lot of people, a majority of people think that he's not fit for office anymore mentally or physically. What's bigger though than the percentages is the shift from last year. So it's a 29-point shift since October 2020, which is massive. Like that's a big decline. A lot of people thought he was, good when he came into office. Like,
well, he didn't say anything, so it was easy to get him into office. He didn't say a word.
He hid in the basement and was good. And what's interesting is they're trying to, say that this is just a right-wing campaign. And it's all these people are just Trump supporters and stuff, and it's not.
Most Spanish and black people I know hate Joe Biden now. They're all full, I'll say it.
And then
they're all Trump supporters. Really, they're Republican or they're just trying to swing.
But even independents. So according to this Politico article, so it says, however, independents by a margin of 23 points don't agree that Biden's mentally fit now. So it's not just Republicans. It's
right.
And this is, again, why Democrats are going to continue to lose and get swept is because anytime they're losing or things aren't going their way or there's polls come out, they just write it off as right-wing propaganda. Just like, to be fair, conservatives do when they're in office. They say it's, fake news and liberal and stuff. But the reality is that it's not. It's independents have eyes and ears.
Which is who
and that's who swings the vote. And that's what's happening, right? So what happened with Trump, him losing, is a lot of independents were like, listen, I can't deal with this. This guy's
a megalomaniac.
Off the charts, when he goes on Twitter and stuff. And now it's happening on the other side. It's like, I can't deal with this woke crap. I can't deal with our government making it seem like everyone's your enemy and that if you don't do this and think this way, you're evil and terrible and you're a right-wing troll Nazi. And it's happening with just Biden's fitness for office. People are seeing, it's like, I'm not going to repeat it because it's horrible, but you heard what he said. He was talking about Satchel Paige, right? And, he was kind of saying how he was a famous black pitcher. But he used the N-word in describing.
He said
him.
egro, but
it wasn't.
He went like
wasn't the bad, but it was like, but it was still a word that you don't say, and everyone knows
said it like
you don't
4
say.
times.
And he doubled and tripled and quadrupled down on instead of just saying like, I made a mistake. Let me just walk that back.
For sure, just say African American too, though.
And it's just crazy because he clearly just isn't there. But
you can tell that from every conversation, though.
From every conversation.
My man just looks literally like deteriorated and speaks like nonsense.
Yeah, and I want to be clear here, too. Like, this isn't an attack on Biden specifically. This is a reality. When people get old, this is what happens, right? It's not crazy. When people enter their 80s,
your brain starts to say goodbye.
Especially somebody that's been working at that level. He's been in government his entire life.
Yeah.
Right? Which means that he's been spinning BS and working ridiculous hours for 50 years.
Yeah.
Right? And so at a certain point, that takes a toll on you.
You're a little senile.
And we can't afford to have, I don't care whether you're Republican or Democrat, we shouldn't have a president in their late 70s or 80s.
No, I think he should be 35 to 55.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's there should be there's an age range for you to get a license. There should be an age range for you to not be able to be president.
Yeah. 35 to 55.
And even Trump, I think, is old for that.
Yeah, I think Trump's too old. Although he somehow has
a nice
the energy.
40, 45-year-old is good.
Yeah. Also, somehow Trump has the energy of a 12-year-old. I don't know what he's taking or getting juiced with in the background, but whatever he is, Biden needs that. But yeah, I don't know why it's so difficult for us to just find a solid 45-year-old candidate for both parties.
It's because it's not what they deem the right fit. It's just there needs to be more parties. There needs to be so much more change on this. It's not going to happen. I think next year you're going to see a red house, and then you're going to see a red president in 3 years from now. The
final thing I'll end with is that I'm curious. I'd love to know if there's anybody in our circles or that listens that's a Democratic strategist or that's plugged in there. Because I'm genuinely
and
curious.
We'd love to have you on if you are.
Yeah. And again, I'm not a registered Republican or Democrat. I'm independent. I voted for both parties in presidential elections, but I am curious what they do here in terms of 2024. You're in a real bind because and
it seems like they're making zero changes.
Yeah,
they're just sticking to hating the Republicans.
Yeah, because Biden's either not going to be around. not that anybody wishes for that. I think that's,
but definitely people think it.
People think it, but nobody wants somebody to pass away. But he's like, the chances of him being here then is not great. And even if he is, like, there's no way he can. If people
You're only
don't
want to
vote for him again, he's going to get crushed. So let's say he either bows out or passes. You have, the worst approval ratings for a VP in history of like 28%.
Right.
So there's no way
Kamala comes in.
She comes in. But how do you play that, right? So if you're the Democrats, your whole thing is intersectionality, making the everything more equal. So how's it going to look if you take the next in line, who's a black woman, and say, actually, we're not going to run her. We're going to run the whitest dude in history, Mayor Pete. Like, that'll never play. And Mayor Pete, everyone hates because he took 2 months off for paternity leave during the greatest supply chain crisis in history as the transportation secretary.
Yeah.
Like, that guy has got horrible approval rating. So you basically the top 3 people who are all hated and have no chance of winning. So I don't know what you do if you're the Democrats. I don't know. You got to just go for a wild card. I think the one thing I heard was like you need like a Michelle Obama or somebody that's like really popular.
She could win.
Somebody like her.
She would be in the mix for sure.
Or you need to go way crazy and get like The Rock or somebody like mega celebrity.
Like Matthew McConaughey. He's ready for Texas.
By the way, he's the only person they've done like straw polls that beats Greg Abbott is Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah, I mean, he's a good mix. Yeah, it would make. I see it. I don't know why he would be wanting to do this, but it makes sense.
I don't know either. But
because on the entrepreneur side and creator side or whatever, like I wouldn't want to get into office if my life is like I don't see The Rock ever needing to do this. Right? It's massive pay cuts. It's not. You can't do movies while you're the president. Like it's just kind of strange. So I don't see why he would want to. Would he win? 100%. Would Joe Rogan win? I think so too. I mean, he's bigger than CNN. The guy's gonna win, right? But like, why would these mega people that have a great life choose to be hated for 4 years? Whatever you do, you're gonna get hated by the other half that said no for 4 years, right?
Yep. It would only be just you have a strong sense that you want to change something and believe that you can. Because if you're a wildly popular celebrity, you can get away with not like agreeing with every point of a party. If you're that big, that's the only way you get somebody in office that doesn't have to toe the party line on everything and can just be independent.
I wonder what Elon would be, where he would shift. Because I think he's a Democrat or Republican.
I think he's like
because he's just a change the world guy. He's like, I'll do whatever's right.
I think he's like most entrepreneurs, which is he's relatively liberal socially and he's relatively conservative financially. I think that's a pretty standard mix for most entrepreneurs and type A people.
Definitely. Yeah. All right, guys. So that is it for this episode. We have one more episode coming up here for the Thanksgiving episode. Make sure you tune into that. Please, please, please rate, subscribe, and share this podcast. We've got a lot of people that say they love the podcast. We would love to see you share the podcast as much as you possibly can. If you want to connect with us on Instagram, fastest way probably, it's at MaxFin and at Los Hustle. That is it for us today, guys. So we will see you before Thanksgiving. Have a great day.
Thanks, guys.